Thank you again for joining us for Cocktails and Conversation. This month we are featuring Angie Klink. Angie is a 81 liberal arts major graduate and author of 14 books, including her most recent book, Purdue's Female Founders, the Untold Story of Untold History of Trailblazing Women Faculty. So here you go. So Angie, you can't see it. Welcome. Can we give her, everybody, can we show her some hearts, some love?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Let's welcome
Thank
Angie.
you all from all over the country. I love it.
Love it. You are so loved.
Very nice. I know many of you. I see very familiar names.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, everyone. So to kick this off, Angie prepared some questions for us to see how much the audience knows about Purdue and history. So if you can go to the next slide, please.
All right. What item was created and copyrighted in 1927 by instructor Amy Irene Bloy for use by students and faculty of the School of Home Economics? Women purchased it at Southworth's bookstore in West Lafayette, which I think was probably in the Village. Anybody know?
Mary thinks it's a sewing machine.
Sewing machine? No.
Any other guesses?
Yes.
Trapper Keeper? I don't know what that is.
Trapper Keeper. Oh, no, we're in 1927. Love it.
Okay, let's see what the answer is.
The famous Purdue recipe file, a beautifully crafted oak box with a hinged lid and dovetailed corners that held a collection of 400 recipes. Bloy began the dietetics program at Purdue in 1923 and offered the first dietetics major in Indiana. A Purdue recipe file is preserved in Purdue University archives. So it's every woman had one who was in home economics, which in 1927 was almost every woman on campus. So that was where the women were funded.
That was fun trivia. Thanks, Angie. Okay, let's see how everybody does on the next question.
What Purdue edifice was the home economics building, but a cement slab was placed over that name in 1976? Nobody's guessing?
Any guesses?
I'm sure you walked, no, not Stone Hall, but you're close.
People said Stone Hall. So let's see what the answer is.
Matthews. Kyle got it. Matthews Hall was named after Dean of Home Economics Mary Matthews in 1976.
Good job, Kyle.
And that was when it went from home economics to consumer and family sciences. So that's kind of part of the transition that happened there. So
awesome. Well,
very
good. So fun. Thank you. Okay.
All right. This picture, my father, I wrote L. Jackson Lip there under where he is. He's very, very young. I would guess around 20. And he was a real Boilermaker before he became a Purdue Boilermaker. And this is at the Nickel Plate Railroad in Frankfort, Indiana. The roundhouse is what they call it, where the train cars came in, engines, and that's where they turned them around. And the turntable inside the roundhouse stored them and worked on them. And he was a Boilermaker until for decades. He was married. He had 3 kids to his first wife. And diesel engines were coming in, and steam engines that needed the boilers were going to be obsolete. He saw his job was going to be gone and decided to go to Purdue during the day to become an electrical engineer. This was in his 30s with 3 kids, and worked nights at the nickel plate yard. So in the middle of all that, his first wife died of cancer, and he took a year off when that happened, and then he married my mother, and he graduated in 56, and I was born, they got married in 57, I was born in 59, and I was a surprise. So anyway, I was born, and he was both kinds of Boilermakers, so that's always a really cool story about my father. So, and this is my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and my mother, and I'm the baby there. And this is in Frankfort, Indiana. And My grandmother had a very rough life. Her husband, my mom's dad, died in 1926 at the Nickel Plate Roundhouse because he worked also on the railroad on Christmas Eve. You couldn't make this stuff up in fiction. You wouldn't think it was real. In 1926, when it was a head-on collision in the roundhouse. And so my mother was 8, and my grandmother had 7 children, and I think very little education. I don't remember now. I don't know, really. No one ever told me, and I don't know. So she took in laundry and ironings to support her children. And then my mother quit high school to go to work to help her mother. And so they neither had a high school education. And for me to be doing what I'm doing is making me cry. It's quite an amazing thing. Oh.
Thank you, Angie.
And that's when I graduated, and that's my husband, Steve. So that was the days of a lot of hair. My husband was like, "Oh, I hate that." And here we are on a Halloween as Lucy and Desi. We love to dress up. Vitamita Vegemin, I'm holding. This is in Kokomo. We lived 2 years in Kokomo when I was a brownie. I loved being in Girl Scouts. I bet a lot of you were in Girl Scouts. This is also in Kokomo when I got the Twister game, and I was a child aunt because of having half siblings, because it was a second marriage for my parents. I had older half siblings, and so I was an aunt very young. And even though all my friends thought they were my cousins, they were my nieces and nephews, and they're surrounding me there in that picture.
Love that.
And I collect Wizard of Oz. I've collected for many, many years, and I do a Wizard of Oz Christmas tree, and that's it right there. Uh, and so, I have just tons of different stuff. And the birth announcement for my older son, who's now 34, was in a Wizard of Oz theme. It's kind of tucked there in the side of the Christmas tree. And the nursery for both kids was in Wizard of Oz theme. And so, yeah, there's touches of it all over my house.
Angie, do you
So,
still do Wizard of Oz Christmas trees today?
yes, it's like it's a small tree. And so, yes, I put it up every year.
Put it up every year.
Yes, and
Awesome.
Helen Magazine did a story on it, and that's what this is, the page from Helen Magazine, which was a local Lafayette, Indiana women's magazine at one point, it was a great magazine, but it's no longer in existence. So I put all that out in the middle of summer because that's when they were doing the story. So put out my Christmas tree, and so yeah.
I love it. I love it. Wait, going back to Wizard of Oz, who was your favorite? I know it's hard to tell, but you must have the Tin
Well,
Man.
other than Dorothy, it would be the Scarecrow. Yeah.
The Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Okay, I love
It
it.
is
Well,
hard to pick though.
thank you for sharing your story, a little bit about your family and your interests. I love that graduation picture, your pictures about your grandmother, and some people put some things in the chat here.
Oh, okay.
Make sure you catch that.
Oh, thank you.
Susan's cat.
Yeah, people don't like the flying monkeys, but I was never scared of them. I don't know why. More scared of the witch, I think.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
you had the exact Twister game. I tell you, that's a classic.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you.
That's funny. Never found it again. Oh, you remember Helen Magazine? Yeah, I miss it. It was such a good magazine. Sharon Martin and Susan Woodson created that. So they were Purdue people. So
And then just have one more question then before I start with asking my question. So
okay.
Kimberly, have you ever been to, is it Nango, New York, the birthplace of
No, I
Frank?
haven't. I've been to other Oz places, but I have not been to that. They have a festival every year, museum. Oh, I would love to go.
There you
Where is
go.
Chintanago, New York? What
It was
part of
not
New York?
only me that couldn't pronounce that. Hey,
I'll have
maybe
to look that
it's
up.
a women's trip. What do you think, people?
Yeah,
Which
road trip.
place
Wizard
within
of
a
Oz
for
themed.
everybody?
I'm always wanting to display it somewhere, but I haven't ever had anybody take me up on it, my
I love
collection. So,
it. Find something. We'll talk about it. Well, thank you.
yeah,
Again, well, thank you for sharing those wonderful pictures.
thank you.
Okay, let's get into the heart of this interview. So,
Okay.
at and beyond Purdue, how did your time at Purdue shape your voice as a writer and historian?
Well, I think my family history, because like I said, my dad went, but then my two brothers also were engineers and had a sister that was Purdue nurse, and then we lived in Lafayette, and my dad worked for Purdue when I was about to enter college, and it was like there was really just no question that I'd be going
If
to
you
Purdue.
going to do
So
that,
there's a
yep.
lot of deep knowing of the university and connection, and then of
Yeah.
course I'm active and connected with Purdue, my whole adult life. So I think having that background and then being asked to write various Purdue themed books, I can call from that, and so it's definitely beneficial, just having that
Absolutely.
long history in my entire life. So,
Absolutely. So if
yeah.
you could go back to your childhood, I mean, to your Purdue student self, what was one piece of advice what would be the one piece of advice you'd give that person?
Well,
Your,
I would join the Association of Women Students. I don't think I knew exactly what it was. I think I was always trying to find my niche, but I never did. I've always been a late bloomer. And so, but when I wrote the Dean's Bible, which is about the five deans of women, deans of students, uh, that's in that book, woven in about that organization, especially during the 70s and the women activists on campus, and so I thought, wow, I think if I had connected there, I would have really found my niche, but too
yeah,
late now. So, so
encourage others.
yeah,
Does that still exist, that student organization?
I thought it did, but maybe not.
Okay.
I have to check.
Okay.
So.
Great. Thank you. Susan wants to know. I think everybody wants to know. Let's see those earrings.
Oh, yes. My husband got me these at McCord's Candy downtown Lafayette. And I don't know, a local person made them and they were, let's see,
Love it.
turn that one over. They're sparkly. They're very lightweight. They don't look like they would be, but they are. So,
Love
yeah.
it. Love it. Well, thank you. There you go, Susan. The campus. Okay, well, wonderful. Can you talk about any professors or mentors or experiences at Purdue that opened doors for your career?
Well, I was thinking about I took in the summer before I graduated so I could graduate in 4 years, an advertising class. Of course, in the summer, everything was so intensive,
Mhm.
and it was Stephen Robb, or Robe, I think it was Rob, yeah. And he was kind of a really laid back fellow, but we worked in teams and created an advertising campaign, and our product was Levi's. And I remember I wrote the headline was Levi your style. I made Levi a verb, and and we and my husband worked for WSK Radio at the time. Later, after college, I worked there. But we went out there and we had one of the disc jockeys like record the commercial that I wrote. And so it was really the first, that's what I ended up doing was writing advertising. So it was, the fact that he had us worked in that way actually was, foretelling of what I was going to do. Another one was Richard Thomas, Professor Richard Thomas. He's still around town. I think he's retired. But there was like one of everything and no more, like one advertising class, one radio production class, because it was in communication. And he taught the radio production class, and you were actually the disc jockey, and he even graded you on winding the cable up. And if you had trouble with that and you got timed it, he gave you 30 minutes to do like a whole production, and that was included the winding of the cable, which for me was like the hardest part.
Right,
So,
right.
but anyway, he was very he was funny, but he was also, he was picky. And then we
Mm.
all graded each other on a scale of 1 to 10. So you heard from your peers as well for every production that you did in front of them in a studio,
Oh,
the basement of Stewart Centers where it was.
that
And
can
then
be
the
kind of
third one
scary.
was Marvin Diskin. He was a professor of communication too, and he was the TV side. So those were the three that really affected my career and what I was doing later in my career that I
Okay.
think so.
Can we get like a thumbs up in the chat if you've heard of any of those professors?
Well, I'm old.
Can you name those professors again? Those three?
Richard Thomas wrote some plays that were
Okay.
productions that were done at
Okay.
Purdue also.
Okay. So we had the Richard Thomas. We had a Rob. I can't remember the other, his last name.
Diskin, Marvin Diskin. He was kind of getting up
And
there in years when I had him. So, yeah.
okay. Okay. Well, thank goodness for mentors and professors like that to help shape your careers. So, as you know, the Purdue Women's Network mentorship is a big deal, and so finding your person to help you guide through the career is so critical. So, thank you for mentioning that. So, let's get to your writing life and craft. What is the hardest part about writing history? Um, I'll go into the deeper into that question, but just in general, what's the hardest part about writing history?
Um, the hardest part. Well, I mean, it's not really the quiet. I think you had mentioned that in the question because I like the quiet to be able to do it.
Silence in the archives or deciding what to leave out. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that is. I was thinking what number is that question? I was thinking I jotted down some.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about writing history? The silence in the archives or deciding what to leave out? Anything, something else?
Oh, I see here. Okay. Oh, I tell you, something that just had happened to me. I'm a member of a women's group, and we meet and we present papers on any topic we want to talk about and write about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the women said that I was intimidating. And she said that because that's what I do for a living is write research papers. But that was I don't know, it was telling to me because I don't want people to think I'm intimidating. It makes it kind of hard to make friends and it's a little bit lonely. But I was really all of a sudden noticing that made me self-conscious, but I also want to be who I am and so and not dim my own light. So that's kind of a fine line. So I remember thinking that when it comes to the writing and what I do after
Yeah.
she said that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it is kind of hard to balance who you are and then also, but then you kind of need to pull that story out of that person too. So if they find you intimidating, how are they going to
Yes,
review the story, right?
right,
So
right.
that's interesting. So who are some of the writers that inspire you, whether they were historians or novelists?
I like Anne Lamott, and she has a lot of different types of books, but one of her books that is like to me, a Bible of writing is Bird by Bird, and I pulled it out.
Mhm.
And I don't know if anybody on here who's like Natalie, who's a writer, has heard of it, but the reason it's
Mhm.
called that is that her brother had waited to do a term paper on birds until the last minute, the night before it was due, and he and their father sat down, and the father said, "Well, we're going to take it bird by bird." Well, that's how you write anything, especially a book. If you think about the whole book, it's overwhelming. But if you think I'm going to take it chapter by chapter or paragraph by paragraph, it's broken up into chunks and it's doable. So that's one of my favorite books. And then fiction, I like Anne Patchett about anything that she writes. I love and historian uh, Jill Lepore. She wrote the Secret History of Wonder Woman and another book called The Mansion of Happiness, which part of that is about who created the Monopoly, which was a woman, but then she kind of got thrown by the wayside. And so, anyway, those are three that came to mind when I saw that question. So,
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for sharing. When the research gets heavy, especially in history, um, what creative outlet keeps you grounded?
well, I don't know if this is creative, but being with my family always keeps me grounded. My two sons and my husband. But walking my dog in nature, I love that. Pilates,
Mhm.
yoga, just dinner with friends,
Okay.
and gardening. That's a creative endeavor. Those are my top things that I like to do. Take a
Very
break,
healthy.
come back to the computer. Yeah, go outside and come back to the computer. So
Right. And they always say that the most creative part happens like after you get that one, burst of oxygen, right? Of being completely separate from the work that you were doing. So yeah.
yes, I agree with that. Yes.
Okay. As we all know, we are in the world of AI. How is that impacting the industry of writing in general? Can you talk to us about
Um, well, on the whole, I don't like it. But I
it?
have used it a little bit just to like say I had a long speech that I'd already written and I needed to make it shorter but then I
Sure.
ended up tweaking it a tons after that, but it at least helped me to get there. And so I think it has its place. Uh,
Hmm.
But another instance, a book I recently wrote, it came out last December, Forging Ahead, which is about a company in Poseyville, Indiana, Nix Corporation. It's a family-owned fifth generation metal fabrication. It started out as a blacksmith shop. And we needed an introduction. And the current CEO, who's the fifth generation, had AI write it for him. And it just lacked any sort of heart. But he thought it was wonderful. And I knew
Mm,
it wasn't. So
mm,
I had to diplomatically, I just kind of rewrote it. And I think then he saw that mine had more heart. And so we went that direction. But that's also a worrisome thing if people think they can just always, and maybe they don't realize how much better it can be. You
yeah.
know, sure, everything, all the periods were there and the commas were there and they're, you had lots of sentences, but does it really touch people and make them remember what you wrote? So
Mm, mhm, mhm. Thank you for that. Let's see what the audience thinks. Who here today has used Chat GPT or any kind of other, you know, um, help like that today? Yeah.
I think it's great for a business letter, say. My husband uses it a lot. He doesn't have a
Oh,
secretary, so it's kind of his secretary or his administrative
mm,
assistant. Um,
yeah. Thank you. There were several people that used it today. I think in general, people use it. It's just how the different ways to use it. So please,
yes.
everyone, if you have a question for Angie, please feel free to put it in the chat or any comments that you have regarding the questions I'm asking or anything else similar. I prefer to do my own writing, says Morgan. Are you in LA? That's awesome. Um, Great. I use the comment browser from Perplexity. I'm not
I don't know
familiar,
what that is. Yeah.
but it must be something similar to ChatGPT. Um, AI browser. Thank
Oh,
you.
gotcha.
I got
Okay.
it. And things are popping up all the time. I know of a person that who is a writer who says that it's going to replace that my job will, I won't have a job because of it. I was like, well, so how do you defend that? What can you say to a person who says that I'm going to lose my job because of ChatGPT? Who is
Well, if they're more of a technical writer, I suppose that would be possible. Because, if you want it to be, but I think you would still need someone to check it. You can't always trust that it's going to have what you want and be, you're going to have a human element in there somewhere. So,
Sure.
but I
Sure.
suppose someone could lose their job. Yeah, I don't know.
I so sometimes notice, like for example, on just makes writing is very different, but like if you have to make short, brief social media,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
can see how that can come in. But sometimes I try to read it and I go, was that AI generated or was that like,
Yes.
did that come from them? And if you know that person personally, you're like, Maria, you didn't write that.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of thing.
I
So
say that to my husband, it makes him mad, but I can always tell. I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
did AI write that? Well, yes, but that's all right. So
Or
just
sometimes
wanted
if
to
you have to
know.
be politically correct about certain things, like we need to have a softer touch for an email, that can come in useful, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
how to answer
And if
tricky
you
questions.
tell it, you can continually massage it, telling it to do this, do that, do this, and you can get
Sure.
it to where you want it. Yeah,
Right, right. So
yeah.
let's see what they put. AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use that. Okay, that's Mary. Do you have a response to Mary?
What are
Won't take
you? I
your job.
won't take your job, but someone will who knows how to use AI will. Well, maybe so.
Yeah, it's really hard to question because it's moving at such a fast pace that we don't know where it's going to be,
That's right.
right? And I want to believe that they still need a human touch to everything that we do, across all dimensions. And so, um, but let's see. But that can go down a really big rabbit hole. So we'll go
Yes.
on to Olivia.
I do know I've entered some contest and it'll say nothing written with AI will be eligible for this contest, this
Right,
writing contest. So,
right. And they,
they're worried about that.
I've heard about some research that's been done that people that use AI versus their own painful putting in pen to paper writing reduces the amount of connections that are in the brain for
Hmm.
creative thinking, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
that might be another reason why you should probably put pen to paper is because of the creative things. So thank
Yep.
you for, okay. Well, awesome. Let's go. Let's touch about your book. First of all,
Okay.
really quick, the Purdue University Press. Okay, let me make sure I get this right. Until December 2nd, you have a chance to get her book, for 40% at a 40% discount.
Yes.
So if Sugar, if you could go ahead and put that in the chat again, she'll give you the link if you want to order her book. Also, if you happen to be on campus next week for homecoming, Angie will be at the women's event, the luncheon on the 24th. She'll be signing her book for book signings, and you can also purchase it there. So that's another reason to come to our event. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive. Thanks, Sugar, for putting that in the chat. So let's go ahead and dive into your book. In researching female founders and female founders, how did you go about selecting the women you eventually featured?
Some of them were ones I'd already written about in other publications, and then others were whatever, if they had papers in Purdue archives, I needed to have the sources, or interviews in the oral history archives that Purdue Archives has. And it goes from the 1800s from the very first female faculty member, Sarah Orrin was her name, through the 20th century. So it's not, I had to stop there, it'd be way too long. Besides, I think those were the greatest strides that, during that time frame, they made the greatest strides. So because, women's rights changed and civil rights and so much for women in those decades. So sometimes they just came under my radar and I thought, oh, there's a good one. And people also, once they knew I was writing it, suggested women who were the first in their fields. And so there's probably about 70 women in there. So it took a while. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How
Yeah.
long did it take you to write the book?
I really worked on it for 7 years. So off and on, in between other things, that I'm
Sure.
working on. So
Wow. I don't know of many authors that go one book at a time. They always, they have the end of
yes.
things.
Yeah, I kind of don't like that, but it happens and you got to pay your bills. So that's what happens.
Got it. Thank you. What common traits did you see that these women shared?
Well, persistence,
Yeah,
no matter what, and a passion for their fields,
yeah.
the research they wanted to do. They really wanted to do it. And no matter what, they kept going, even when, Virginia Ferris, who was in agriculture and entomology, she worked during a time that if you were pregnant, you could be fired, and so she hid it under a lab coat to keep doing her research. And then once they knew she was pregnant, they said, "Well, the minute you have it, you've got to quit." So she did. So she then ended up actually freelancing, and so those kinds of things when it was still legal to do that. It's not legal to do that now, of course, but so, it was very impressive that they had such passion for what they wanted to do, and no matter what, they kept trying.
That's forward
So,
thinking. Would any of these still resonate with women leaders today, do you think?
uh, definitely, I think we still confront that.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be as blatant as saying that, but definitely they give you a lot of courage when you read what they've done. And, if you're going to try to publish a book or, that there's so many stumbling blocks, and these women really saw so much and but still they were, classy about it and graceful and just did their best and kept going. So,
Yeah. I'm going to have you talk about the picture on the cover in a second, but
okay.
which particular story affected you personally as you wrote it?
Uh, well, that's the one woman I was going to answer is the
Okay.
woman on
Oh,
the
you are.
cover.
Okay. I love this
Yeah.
picture. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Which that's Annie Smith Peck. Whoops, this way.
Mm-hmm.
And she's was a Latin instructor for 2 years from 1881 to 1883 at Purdue. And she went on to become a record-breaking mountain climber. And really, she's a metaphor for all the women in the book. That's why I wanted her on the front. It's such a great picture because of all the mountains that the women inside climbed, metaphorically. And
Mm-hmm.
at age 44, she climbed the summit of the Matterhorn in the Swiss Alps,
Mm-hmm.
and that was 1895. And the world was up in arms, even though this was a record, because she wore pants. And so it was like, I mean, women could be put in jail for wearing pants. It sounds nuts now, but and of course she wore pants because she'd heard of women who did mountain climbing in long skirts and got their skirt caught in a crevice and fell to their deaths. Um, so,
Mhm.
and she was so famous though that she was in advertising for the Blick typewriter and for the Singer sewing machine. Speaking of sewing machines.
Mhm.
But Peck returned then, even though she'd only been 2 years at Purdue, she returned several times to speak to alumni groups. And in fact, she returned in 1913, and the Exponent ran the headline that said, "The world's greatest woman mountain climber to give illustrated talk." So, yeah,
Love
so
it.
she did come back as
I
a celebrated mountain climber. So,
I love that. When I saw that cover and we talked a little bit about that picture, I was remembering when alumni would come back to campus and they said, Maria, can you take a picture of me in my jeans in front of the at the union in front of the stairs? I was like, why? Because I wasn't allowed to wear pants
pants,
during that.
yes.
I was like, when did that become legal or allowed,
In the 60s, Helen Schliemann, who was Dean of Women during that time, she was strongly advocated that she had to fight for that and for women's hours so that women didn't have to come in, be in their, dorms at a certain time. And she said, stop locking the women up. The guys could be out anytime they wanted, but the women were supposed to be in by a certain time. And those two things were two that she fought for, among
Oh,
many other things that Helen
mhm,
Schliemann did. But yeah, it's
mhm.
hard to believe now that, and it had to be like sub-zero for them to say, okay, women can wear pants on campus.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. So I was that kind of leads into the next questions. What surprised you most about their struggles or triumphs? I guess they're obviously their grit, but if you,
exactly. Yeah. How
yeah,
courageous they were. But, and they were part usually of a small enclave of women, like just a few women in their department, or maybe just one other one. But they stuck together, which was
sure,
also helped. Uh,
sure.
but definitely just, you'd have to really want your profession to put up with
Yeah.
some of the stuff they had to put up with.
Oh, yeah.
So
Or
they did.
hide behind another name or I don't know, but that's interesting. So you've got Susie here that asked, there were still hours for women during the late 1980s. I'm not sure I understand that question.
There was
Susie?
still
Um,
curfew.
Oh, there were?
I was there in the early 1980s and I don't remember a
Mhm.
curfew, but
I
there
got written
was.
up climbing into my dorm room window, so I remember it explicitly.
I
We'll leave
don't.
it at that.
Don't do that, Susie. I can't imagine you climbing through. That's going
Oh,
on.
how funny. Maybe
Okay.
there was and I just don't remember it. I don't
You
know.
broke all the rules, Angie. Gosh. Okay, well, thank you. Patsy asked, thank you, Dean Schleeman. We got rid of hours during my time on campus and could not wear pants in Stewart or the Union. I wonder if I took a picture of you. I remember other ladies that came onto campus too. I took a picture. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
Joyce says the same thing about not wearing them in the union.
Okay. No, that's all we
Well,
wear.
yeah, maybe the cooperative, they could do what they wanted, not necessarily under the Purdue rules of dormitories. So,
Mhm.
um,
Well, thank
and I do
you.
remember we called it the Virgin Vault. There was one, I lived in Meredith Hall. There was one floor that did have hours compared to what we had in the other floors. And men couldn't go on that floor. And some women wanted it because they thought it would be easier to study and quieter and all that. So, but we called it the Virgin Vault.
Oh, wow. I wonder what it's about today. You should go by there and see what
I know.
back visiting your hall. That would be,
I think probably the guys actually coined it that. I don't think the girls did.
yeah. That's, yeah. If these women lived in 2025 today, what industries or causes do you think they'd be leading? Oh, I know that's going to be a long list, but a few.
Well, I think they'd be a bit sad about some of the backwards rights that are happening right now, or threats of losing some of them that they worked hard for us to have.
Okay.
I think they would be worried about that.
Mhm.
But I think they would be in more administrative positions, but not necessarily at the top, because if you look around, there aren't that many women still at the top.
Mm,
Um, but I think some of them would be maybe going into space or curing cancer or writing the great American novel. I do think
yeah.
they'd have their hands in all those kinds of things for sure. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot more freedom, but then there's maybe some restrictions here and there. Yep, I see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, cool. Well, thank you. So ladies, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. But that wraps it up for my questions we have here. Any last words before we go to the lightning round? No. Okay. I'd like to know what you're wearing for Halloween. That would be
I don't know yet. We're going to go to a show down at Long Center. You know what I think I'm going to be wearing is like a 1940s kind of, because it's kind of a swing band kind of thing. And
okay.
so I think that's probably a hat and look 1940s. So that's probably what I'm going to be.
I love it. I love it. Patsy wants to know what's next for you.
I'm working on a book it's called Nine Star Connect, which is a utility cooperative in Westfield. And how I got this book was that all last year I was sitting next to the communication director for the company. And it wasn't until the end of the season I had given him a postcard about my latest book, which was Forging Ahead about the Nix
Mhm.
Corporation. And he's like, "You're a writer? We've been wanting a writer to write our history." Because it started in 1895, so it's an old company. So that's how I got that gig. So I'm working on that, and then I'm also doing a small book on John Christian, who established bionucleonics, and he is the one who has had the Samara House that Frank Lloyd Wright
Oh,
created. And and that's bionucleonics was related to health sciences. And so it's his story with a little bit about Samara too, because it was happening during the same time. So, and that'll be kind of a little coffee table book, but his story. So those are two things that I'm working on. So, and he's a really neat person. So, and that house is really neat. So,
that's fun. That's fun.
yeah.
Can I ask you a question about have you been following the news about the possible discovery of Amelia Earhart's plane?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Your
And I
thoughts?
hope they really find it because that would be amazing. That would
That
be
would be.
absolutely full circle. So, yeah,
There's been several expeditions in the past. Let's
yes.
see what this one will result in, and we'll know. Yeah, we'll know. I can't say
Yeah.
anything out more than that. Okay, Spice wants to know, where do you get your hats?
Some of them came from a friend of mine who collected them and she passed away. And I've got some that belong to my mother-in-law. I've got one that's got like daisies on the top and one stuck up with a bee. That was my mother-in-law's. So
I
I just
love
get
it.
them all over the place. People give me, of course, people know I like things like that. So
Yeah.
they give them to me. So great
Oh,
fun.
you're gonna love midwinter nights during I mean, the
Mm,
ball scene.
yes, that sounds like a fun theme. That really
Yeah,
does. Yeah.
yeah, it would go all over the place. I can already see that.
Yeah.
Susie's asking, have you thought about teaming up with Professor Randy Roberts for a book from Liberal Arts?
I would if something happened. Yeah, I know he's a great historian. So, uh, yeah,
There we go.
he's got a lot of popular books.
Awesome. I'm sure you get requests and it's hard, like trying to vet. How do you do that? How do you make that decision? I mean,
Well, sometimes people think they have a good book idea, but then you're like, nah, I don't know. And plus, I have to go where the money's going. They have to have funding to pay
yeah,
me. So that'll
sure,
determine some of it. So,
sure.
yeah, and I really want to I'm getting to the point where it's like I want to do a book that, I'm passionate about and I believe in. So
Absolutely.
I'd be a little more picky lately, maybe.
Absolutely
Because you
wonderful.
spend a
Okay.
lot of time with it once you commit. You've spent a couple of years at least with it.
I
So
mean, you did 7 years on this one, right? So
yes, that's right. Yeah. That was definitely a labor of love, though. That's
yeah,
for
it is
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, a reminder, everybody, if you want to meet Angie in person or see her again, for those of you that already know her, she'll be at next week's luncheon at the Union on October 24th. So there are just a few more seats left, so get your register today. So let's get to the lightning round. I have 15 questions. As you know, it's just like what comes to mind, and we'll just go down the list. So, number one, what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear Purdue women?
Bold.
What book outside of your own do you always recommend to friends? I think I know that.
Well, bird by bird, probably what I just recommended.
If you could have
So,
a cocktail dinner with any woman from history, not just Purdue, who would it be?
oh, probably one of my deans, Dorothy Stratton.
Okay, awesome. Where's the most surprising place your research has ever taken you? A dusty archive, someone's attic, a random library find?
The British Virgin Islands. I have done a manuscript on a man, Joe Zare from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who's the
Uh-huh.
largest land developer in that county. And he loves the BVI and loves to take people to the BVI, and he rents a 60-foot catamaran. And so we did that last year. And he
Okay.
still hasn't published his book because it makes him cry. I think it's too close for comfort. I don't know if he will, but he's 82 years old. But so we went to the BVI with him. So that book definitely took me there.
Oh,
So
wow. I did not expect that. Well, that's awesome.
yeah, I know. You wouldn't think so.
Sounds like not an attic.
No.
Okay. Awesome traveling. Okay. If you could instantly learn a new skill unrelated to writing, what would it be?
Um, Maybe another language,
Okay,
you
cool.
know?
What's one story you're still wanting to tell but haven't had the chance yet?
Amelia Earhart.
Ah, okay, everybody needs to write to the university press and say,
Well,
right,
it's got to have funding. That's always the thing. Somebody's got to really want it.
yep, everybody
But if
please.
that's really your plane, it'd be the time to do it.
Awesome, that's
Because a lot
awesome.
of people outside of Purdue don't know her connection to Purdue. So
Yeah.
that would be the focus, of course. So
Did you dress up as Amelia Earhart for Grandparents University one year?
that was my guest I had. That was
Oh,
Audrey Johnson. But I have dressed as Amelia Earhart for Halloween. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I
That was
love it.
that was Audrey. Yeah.
Okay. If your younger self could see you now, what do you think she would say?
She would be surprised because she was very shy, and that she would be here talking to all of you, and that she was out
Wow.
talking about her books. I wouldn't even do show and tell in kindergarten or first grade. So
Oh, really?
yeah. Yeah. Come a
Okay.
long way.
Yeah. If you could time travel to any era in Purdue's history, which decade would you visit?
Hmm.
Ooh.
There's just so much oppression for women in most of them, but I would travel maybe to the 60s so I can know Helen Schliemann
Okay.
and know
Okay.
all the deans. Actually, they were all living then.
Yep. Yep. What is your favorite Purdue event?
Mm, I do love the Boilermaker Ball, and well, basketball season this year and last year.
Aren't we ranked number one?
Yes.
Go for it. And what's your favorite Purdue tradition?
Well, I love the Purdue Glee Club, and when they sing the Purdue hymn, my brother was
Hmm.
in the Glee Club and my son was in the Glee Club. In fact, I'm wearing both my lavaliers, one's for my son and one's for my brother. So
I
that
love
I love. Yeah, that gives you cold chills.
it. Thank you. Which Purdue professor, past or present, would you love to co-teach a class with?
Oh, I teach with Richard Thomas. He's still around. He's my radio production professor. He's funny,
Awesome.
so he's funny to be around.
Yep, the humor will get you far. Which quote from your book do you find yourself returning to the most?
One of them is Helen Schliemann, who would ask every woman she knew, student or faculty woman, do you have your go to hell fund? Which meant if you
Oh,
had to leave a job you didn't like, or a man, or just a situation, you needed to have a backup funds. And that's still a good thing to do, to be able to walk away from something you didn't like. So, and
okay.
she said that in the days you didn't say hell. This was like in the 50s and 60s. So that was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. If our children knew that today, no, we were not allowed to do that. Yep, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. If you weren't an author, what other creative path do you think you might have taken?
Uh, well, I'm not sure. I love animals. I don't know if that's creative. I love, well, particularly dogs. So I don't know. Maybe something I could have done with dogs. I don't know.
Okay. If you could sum up your Purdue journey and writing life in 3 words, what would they be?
3 words.
I know it's hard for a writer. That's the question.
Take the risk.
Take the risk. Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
And the last one, because I know a little bit about your story, but what were the 3 most magical moments this year so far?
Well, my son just got married. Is that the one you're referring to? September 20th, and it was magical. It was in the Berkshires in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Beautiful day. Uh, it's actually magic that this book has been published, let me tell you, if you knew the backstory. So that is a magic trick. So did you say 3? What did you say? Gosh, what else? I'm sure there's something else. What did I do earlier in the year?
I know that's very top of mind. I mean, a child getting married and then a book being published. It's a pretty big deal in 1 month.
Yes, I went to the Irma Bombeck Writers Workshop.
Okay.
Actually, though, that was last year, but it's every other year. And I've gone like 7 times, and it's at the University of Dayton, and it's very magical weekend with other writers, humor writers. You laugh all weekend. It's usually
Yeah.
all women, and it's a
Mhm.
great energy and connection. So that's always magic. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you survived it.
I
Congratulations.
did. We did it.
You did it. I didn't ask that
I don't
tricky.
know how lightning I was.
Congratulations. They're coming for you. So you have 3
Thank
extra
you.
questions here, really quick. So wait, 2. I got to see them perform. Oh, the Glee Club, Mary said. Oh, that's awesome. Past
Yes,
week.
and Joyce's students were terrified of Dean Schliemann. I believe it. She would be intimidated.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Awesome. Well, that ends it for today's cocktails and conversation. Thank you, Angie,
Thank
so
you so
much.
much, everybody, for being here. I
I
really appreciate it.